The Atlantic Ocean is a graveyard of infinite patience. Once a vessel slips beneath the waves and passes the 1,000-meter mark, it enters a world where time effectively stops. At 4,800 meters down, the depth of the abyssal plain, the pressure is immense, enough to compress solid wood into a density resembling stone. The temperature is a permanent, paralyzing, near-freezing point. In this crushing darkness, nothing changes, nothing moves, and, most importantly, nothing survives. For over 80 years, this has been the resting place of the KMS Bismarck. Since Robert Ballard located the wreck in 1989 and James Cameron returned with high-definition cameras in 2002, we thought we knew this ship. We mapped her scars. We analyzed the shell holes that tore her superstructure apart on that final morning in May 1941. We wrote the epitaph for the 2,000 men who went down with her. But we were wrong. In late 2024, a privately funded deep-sea research initiative returned to the site. They weren't hunting for gold, and they weren't looking for glory. They were there to test a new generation of autonomous exploration technology, the Prometheus X. This wasn't a standard submersible. It was a Hadal-class autonomous drone equipped with synthetic aperture sonar and gravimetric sensors capable of detecting density shifts inside solid steel. The mission was supposed to be a routine structural integrity scan. But 9 hours into the dive, as the drone drifted along the port side of the majestic, ruined citadel, the telemetry screens in the control room 3 miles above triggered an alarm that shouldn't have been possible. The Bismarck isn't just rusting. Deep inside the armored hull, something is warm, and it's waking up. To understand the severity of this discovery, you have to understand the thermodynamics of the deep ocean. At this depth, the water is a uniform 1.4 degrees Celsius. It is an infinite heat sink. Any object that falls here will reach thermal equilibrium within hours. For a steel warship that has been submerged since 1941, the hull should be indistinguishable from the water around it. Yet, when Prometheus X scanned the Citadel, the heavily armored central section of the ship designed to protect the command crew, the thermal sensors spiked. It wasn't a glitch. The sensors were recalibrated 3 times. The result was identical. A specific 4-meter section of the hull, located directly beneath the forward fire control station, was radiating heat. The differential was small, barely a fraction of a degree warmer than the abyss, but in the laws of physics, that energy has to come from somewhere. Immediate theories tried to explain it away. Was it a chemical reaction, the slow exothermic decay of old nickel-cadmium batteries, or perhaps a pocket of oil finally breaking down? Experts at the scene dismissed these ideas rapidly. Batteries corrode and die within years, not decades. Oil reacts with pressure, but it doesn't generate steady, rhythmic heat for nearly a century. This was a sustained thermal output. It was pulsing, almost like a slow, sleeping heartbeat. And it was coming from a compartment that, according to every known blueprint of the Bismarck class, shouldn't even exist. The team needed physical evidence. The heat signature was centered behind a 320mm built of Wotan-hardened armor, impenetrable to the drone's tools. However, the external plating near the heat source showed signs of unusual warping. Not the jagged tears of battle damage, but a smooth outward buckling, as if the pressure inside the ship was greater than the crushing weight of the ocean outside. At the seam of this buckled plate, the drone's lights caught a strange reflection. A substance was leaking out. The manipulator arm scraped a microsample of the material. It wasn't rust, and it wasn't biological. It was a translucent, gelatinous film. When the sample was brought to the surface and analyzed by material scientists at the Geomar Helmholtz Center, the room went silent. The substance was identified as a complex silicone-lithium polymer. It was hydrophobic, thermally conductive, and incredibly dense. In modern engineering, we call this a dielectric gel. It is used to encase high-value electronics like flight recorders or server cores, to protect them from extreme vibration and pressure. Here lies the paradox.
The Bismarck was launched in 1939. While German engineering was advanced, this specific type of polymer chemistry is decades ahead of its time. It suggests that inside that sealed chamber, someone had installed a vibration dampening system designed to survive the death of the ship. But what kind of technology required that level of protection, and who installed it? To find the answer, researchers had to leave the ocean and dive into the archives. For months, historians combed through declassified Kriegsmarine logistics files, looking for any mention of experimental equipment loaded onto the Bismarck before her final sorties. What they found was a discrepancy that had been overlooked for 80 years. Official history records that over 2,200 men died when the Bismarck capsized. But a cross-reference of the boarding manifests against the payroll ledgers revealed a gap. 32 men were physically on board the ship, fed by the ship's galley and bunked in the forward quarters, yet they were never listed on the official naval roster. These weren't sailors. They were listed as Sondertechniker, special technicians. They were civilian contractors drafted from Siemens Schuckert, Telefunken, and the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physics. Their backgrounds were in early computing, encryption, and experimental radar. And then there was the blueprint. Found in the estate of a deceased naval architect in Hamburg, a single, fragile schematic labeled Project Nebelhorn 7, Project Foghorn 7. It details a retrofit to the Bismarck's hull, installed under heavy secrecy in the winter of 1940. The schematic depicts a windowless, airtight vault, independent of the ship's main power, encased in the very shock-absorbing gel found by the drone. The notes in the margin are chilling. Kein Zutritt for marine personnel. No access for naval personnel. Active only under Command 9. This chamber was a black box, a sealed environment designed to operate autonomously, protecting something vital enough that 32 experts were erased from history to maintain it.
Armed with this knowledge, the Prometheus X returned to the anomaly. If this chamber was an automated vault, was it still running? The team decided to try something provocative. They utilized the drone's active sonar to ping the sealed compartment directly, a concentrated burst of acoustic energy meant to map the interior density. The moment the sound wave hit the hull, the anomaly reacted. The hydrophones didn't pick up a metal echo, they picked up a response. It wasn't random noise, it was a precise digital mechanical rhythm. 3 short pulses, 3 long pulses, 3 short pulses. The universal distress signal, SOS. But the timing was inhumanly perfect. The interval between each sequence was exactly 62 seconds. This behavior is consistent with what military historians call a dead hand protocol. This is an automated system that lies dormant, waiting for a specific trigger, in this case, an external active sonar ping, to wake up and signal its status. This discovery casts a terrifying new light on a long-buried British intelligence intercept. On May 27, 1941, hours after the Bismarck sank, a listening post in Newfoundland intercepted a burst transmission from the mid-Atlantic. It didn't come from a U-boat. It used a code cipher that Bletchley Park couldn't break for 3 years. When finally partially decoded, the message read, "Vessel lost, integrity compromised, execute Signal 9, lock initiated." Signal 9 wasn't a surrender, it was the command to seal the vault, to engage the internal batteries, to lock the doors from the inside. The final piece of this puzzle defies explanation. As Prometheus X prepared to ascend, leaving the pulsing heat in the rhythmic SOS behind, the onboard acoustic array captured one last anomaly.
It was a burst of high-frequency static cutting through the water like a scream. Audio engineers on the surface ship isolated the frequency, stripped away the background noise of the ocean currents, and amplified the signal. Buried within the static was a voice. Nicht beenden, System active, warten. Do not terminate, system active, waiting. The voice was not human. The cadence was flat, the pitch perfectly uniform. It was a synthesized recording, a looped warning generated by a machine that has been running in the dark since the Second World War. The implications are staggering. We have always believed the Bismarck was destroyed, but the evidence suggests that a part of it, a secret core protected by civilian scientists and experimental technology, survived. Inside that crushed hull, in a room filled with heat and gel, a machine is still executing its final order. It has power, it has a directive, and for 83 years it has been waiting for someone to come down and listen. The Prometheus X expedition has been suspended pending review by international maritime authorities, but the signal continues, the heat continues. The Bismarck is not dead. It is merely waiting.